Starting lineup, Mundo, Fiddlesticks, Akali, Mel, Velcos, up against Garen, Briar, Annie, Caitlyn, Lux. Rating of the picks for a casual game. Mundo as a top, 10. Fiddlesticks in the jungle, 5. Akali as a mid, 6. Mel as a shooter, 6. Velcos in support, 4. Garen as a top, 8. Briar in the jungle, 10. Caitlyn as a shooter, 10. Lux in support, 7. Here in this game, a true damage, attack damage, a mage, a mage, a mage, and another mage. Also in this game, the dynamic here between Mikasa Ackerman and this individual who spells Jaeger in a very bizarre manner, who's going to end up demonstrating why I don't really build myself purely around sniping somebody else's skills. We're gonna have this contribution here from this Italian woman, who, much like Giovanni delle Bandanere, is going to end up forcibly retreating after being shot down by multiple turrets, but still an apprentice. There is yet hope. I'm starting to notice that every single Italian player seems to be drawn in by great evildoers like Fiddlesticks and Mordekaiser. Also in this game, this Briar player, who hopefully was trying to troll me specifically. It did not work if she was trying to troll me, but I hope for her and for all humanity that she was trying to troll me. Because if this was a serious attempt at jungling, then you are probably in diapers. Moving on. Holding it down with the homie Briar out on the block. And we're going to pay a visit to this Italian woman who is lost and found. Annie has that sneaky, almost unintentional stun. Even I sometimes forget that it's coming. Later here we try the same trick on Akali, got that flash in, and she survives with like literally 5 HP. Which means that it was worth trying. Another millionth case here of a nihilistic, broken down human in this Briar player, just like every single other Briar player that we've ever met. If I did not already have a million ults and whatnot, I would honestly start up a Briar playlist myself just to showcase what she could actually do. Because from a look standpoint, I'm not at all into Briar. It's a kind of bizarre female humor that is behind Briar that I cannot comprehend and that I do not have an appetite for. But from a pure strategist point of view, Briar's endless survivability and regen is just so delicious. The actual impact she has on the map, the pressure she creates, and the level of relentlessness, you can just do anything with her. Buy the dumbest possible items, go laning with her, dive into the middle of combat. She's so effing indestructible and brilliant and regen heavy that she survives anything. You never have to take care of her. Definitely one of the most potent casual champs, and another element of pure bizarre human culture that she's never played in any other slot, because she most definitely could be laning. She most definitely could be played in support. She most definitely could be played in top. But what we do is frequently dictated based on social approval rather than actual common sense. A gem of a champion from a strategical standpoint, and one of the most winning champions in casual play, in that we've never seen her being played by a serious person. And even then, she still finds a way to have a magnificent impact. We have this Vel'Koz player here, pinging his little micro Linus off. Going to go all wild everything. Meeting up at the Drake, but it's all in vain. Look at me, I'm Annie. Going to throw that incinerate and you're dead again. And one of the reasons why Fiddlesticks has limited viability, you get that very slow jungle objective trickle contribution here. Little bit of an escapade with Vel'Koz. Going to follow me around. He's learned all about the ping system, but he forgot all about the mana system. He doesn't really understand when he's out of spell power. And you're going to eat that incinerate because I told you so. This is some kind of strange spelling of the word Jaeger in this Caitlyn player that I do not comprehend. But this Caitlyn player is going to be able to survive consistently in bizarre situations throughout this game, almost getting a rush. Like, the whole thing here is like an action movie with Caitlyn, always getting away with 1 HP. And just no contribution from the red team to the jungle objectives whatsoever here. But I was still able to get a couple of kills in. And that's a little bit the story of this game. A couple of strong individuals just able to overcome the complete lack of a real team. And as long as you don't know what the hell you're doing, we don't have to work together to overcome you. We eventually have this Italian girl coming up with a devious plan to channel bountiful harvests with fiddlesticks. As this Akali places the shroud, but that actually does very little because it is only Akali that reaps the benefits from that shroud. And much like the notable Italian tactician Giovanni della Bandera, we're going to be forced to retreat. And all that goodness just purely credited to me, myself, and I. Such a happy little girl. You're going to run away, but I put the bear on you. We've seen that before. And this is typically what I'm afraid of, right? For me to consider Akali as a mid, this is precisely the type of horror that is just crafting this into such an impossibility for me. These advanced mobility tactics and spells to the point where you don't know what you're doing. And you end up dragging your plump bass all the way back to the starting position. And now you end up with this hyper-mobile individual who just moves as linear as can be because your mind cannot keep up with the complexity of Akali. It turns out that like what you need for jungling a lot is just being rugged, stable, tanky, able to take a hit, and you don't need all this extra clown stuff that we see at times from Lilia, that we see from Fiddlesticks, that we see from Rammus, that we see from Nunu. This is why I enjoy Trundle so much. He was really born in the top lane, and he's known for being able to hold his ground, which is just so much more valuable than all this special, far-fetched stuff that doesn't necessarily translate to wins. With Fiddlesticks as well, you get this bizarre dynamic with placing these scarecrows everywhere. Fiddlesticks is a champ who's constantly working with a handicap. This harmless scarecrow passive that does not allow him to place regular wards has to make him one of the most laughable possible picks for any kind of pro or serious game. The explanation is that when you place a scarecrow, you grant him stealth when standing still in a brush or behind terrain. But I have that too. I'm also stealthy when I'm standing still in a brush or behind terrain. You don't need the scarecrow for that. And so you lose that massive ability to scout for your team by being able to see with wards. And it's such a typical example of a champ designed for the visual flair of the jungle, rather than actually being suited up with a kit that consistently helps to hold the line. You're dueling too close to this turret now, and we have a pattern by now. This Italian girl coming after me with the ultimate, but you're not going to account for the bear, which makes me unstoppable. We have Vel'Koz using Life Form Disintegration Ray, one of the hardest straight line abilities in the video game. This beam deals bonus damage based on how many stacks of organic deconstruction the enemy has. This is where you really feel the impact of that passive. We're going to have this completely detached Briar player sitting around in the mid lane by herself, and this Vel'Koz later on turning out to be a one-trick pony with his ultimate. And this is precisely why you should pop your cooldowns and why you shouldn't just sit around. I know I'm beating myself up when I'm not letting the bear out as soon as I can. Such an absolute rookie mistake to not use your cooldowns. If they're not on cooldown, they're effectively wasted. And the idea is here to find the most horrible creation that has the greatest possible evil that they can do in this Fiddlesticks. The two favorite general picks that we've seen from Italian players so far is Mordekaiser, a great evil lich who wants to dominate and ruin the world, and Fiddlesticks, the definition of a horror creature, and a beast that only wants destruction and doom. This is the philosophy behind this pick here. You're not really going to work with your ultimate. You're not getting any stuns or any crowd controls in. You're not farming anything. You're pretty much just relying on your theme. It's almost like, because of the fact that you're an Italian girl, you gravitate more toward feelings and notions and horror movies rather than to actual tact and strategy. This Akali player, just the living embodiment of everything that drove me to Annie. The horror of waddling around on the most mobile champion in the video game and just not getting everywhere, slacking off anywhere. You have 4 mages and you have no game. You tried to stack the deck, but you stacked it wrong. Team Red going back to a little bit of original harmony with that natural tanky top, trying to become a marksman but still naturally tanky. You have that AD jungler, you have that AP mage in the mid, you have that traditional ADC. And just trying not to be complete children here and sticking to a little bit of game balance, to a little bit of tact. Once more, this Akali effect only benefits herself. This Jaeger boy doing nothing but sniping kills left and right. You're an ADC, do your due. This interaction, purely fantasy based, between Mikasa Ackerman and this GigaChat guy. We have one mage in Vel'Koz that is built for one-on-one destruction. And we have one mage in this Lux that is really more into trickery and more into roots, which is a playmaking utility mage in Lux versus a damage machine in Vel'Koz. You think that because you like the looks of Lux, she will just suddenly become a damage machine. And so many people died like this. After a long struggle here, we're going to get even Mundo down, because none of you little rats will listen to me. But Briar self-sustain is demented. Absolutely demented. just indestructible. At long last, we're going to say goodbye to this Italian girl. 0 kills, 12 deaths. You hung in there. This flash in, lobbing the disintegrate. I told you that in and out game of Annie is unbelievable. And later on, it's unbelievable, but I will end up being the first and only person to actually make use of the Aztec statuettes. And literally survived by going around and around like Nate Dogg. It's unbelievable. Let's take a look at this game. Let's take a look at the champs in this game. Let's take a look at how they interacted with each other. We have this Garen player, building Garen like Jinx, but essentially with what they did with Yasuo and with what they did with Tryndamere, how can you really be blamed? Of course you're going to confuse these things. Sometimes the enemy team is so incompetent at dealing damage that you can get away with this, even though you're factually just destroying your own gold pile. You're only screwing yourself out of all of this stuff. Garen doesn't scale well with Jinx items at all. You're not being smart and robbing us of this and that. You're only robbing yourself. One of the reasons why some people get the impression that this is actually okay for Garen is just because it is so difficult to screw him up with how much defense he has and how much survivability he has by default. We have this Briar player who is somehow silver here. Absolutely frightening that you can have enough games played to be silver and behave like this. You seem to be in a coma throughout the whole game. I hope you're actually okay in real life. No idea what was going on with this person. But it goes to show you, if you're being dysfunctional and bizarre, then at least be consistent with it and push something. This Briar player did nothing all game long but just push the mid lane blindly and relentlessly, without any kind of strategy or any kind of tactics. But hey, at least you got it done in the end. We have me, 9 kills, 1 death, learning how to shine as that mage star. It really takes considering many things at the same time. I have to try to learn to set things up for my ultimate to come in more consistently. Just still not popping my cooldowns enough even though I'm already trying. We have this Jaeger player. I don't know what's going on with that. I've never seen it spelled that way before. Actually, considering the fact that you were sniping kills left and right the entire time and got credited for everything that other people did, it's unbelievable how low your KDA actually turned out to be. But this was definitely a player who did not spend a single second outside of action. We have Mikasa Ackerman, a complete amateur but bringing the constant pressure. I doubt you have any kind of understanding of why people sometimes play Lux in that slot and for what reason. You seem to be entirely disinterested and unaware of what the actual intention was of playing this champion in this role, but somehow, I guess, you managed to back up the presence of this Caitlyn player. And it's hard to screw up Lux. Lux is always useful, no matter what. We have here Mundo, 1 kill, 7 deaths. You're trying to be smarter than everyone. You're outthinking everyone. You're coming up with new secret plans. But you need to stay away from your secret plans because they stink. When you want to increase the damage output of Mundo, it scales off of your ability cooldown through his true damage, especially with his machete. When you want to increase your survivability chances on Mundo, you have to add some armor to him, so that all of that incoming damage goes through an extra filter. Instead, you're partially building this character with a bunch of attack speed. The actual time that you're going to spend on Mundo ramping up attack speed in a 1v1 standing still in front of your enemies is just not going to be that much. mainly whittling other champions down at range. We have here Assassine, which means assassin in Italian, female assassin that is. She was able to make it 20 minutes and 9 seconds into the game before disconnecting. You went 0 and 12, and then abandoned your team. A real Italian assassin. We have this Akali player here, just making Akali look so clumsy, and you're taking on so much with so little. Time to start with something more simplistic, man. I don't know why you want to be the most complicated thing that you could possibly be, but if you don't stop yourself here, you're going to hurt yourself. 'Cause this is not for you. There's plenty of places where you can find hot girls. You don't have to come to League of Legends for that. It shouldn't be your main reason to pick a character. Then we have Mel as a shooter. Probably the best player on Team Blue. It's too bad for you, man. You seem to be a serious weirdo. Yeah, you got screwed over by your entire team. It's too bad. And then we have this behemoth of Ping, who's clearly playing to get attention more than anything else. Little bit of an attention whore. You went 6 and 4. Just demonstrating that ridiculous firepower that Vel'Koz can bring to bear. In no way were you supporting. And every time you see this, these people who play Garen as a shooter or Vel'Koz all-out aggressive as a support, it's always like, dude, you're doing horrible. What do you get out of this? Imagine that I would steal from someone, and every time I would steal from them, I would get poorer and poorer and poorer, and lose more money every time myself that I would steal. That's kind of what this is like, with screwing over these teams by inserting like Garen as Jinx with a Jinx build, or Vel'Koz as a support, all-out damage dealer. It's like, what do you get out of this? You're doing horrible anyway. It's like you want nothing more than to try to rob these people of a decent support, and this is going to be the source that you're going to feast on and the way you're going to enrich yourself. But at the end of the day, you didn't enrich anything, and you're doing miserable yourself. So you may as well really have done a normal contribution, because it didn't help you as an individual for your KDA or your score. And this Italian assassin girl, just a reminder of what unhinged emotions get you, and whether they're sustainable and reliable advisors over the long term. Just trying to learn a bunch on Annie so we don't get a circus in ranked. But it's difficult if you have to practice against the circus the whole time, man. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, we can tell that this Vel'Koz player has changed his name from GigaChad to The Real GigaChad. I would want to encourage you to try to find useful activities to do in life. Yeah, here as this Mundo player you go with a cult item, here you go with a semi-aggressive tank item, here you go with a marksman item, and then we see the result here. Mundo is one of those characters like Yasuo and Yone that have a very scripted build, that really are what they are. They're very predictable and they only have the ability to function in a very specific manner. In exchange for that, much like Yasuo, Mundo is probably a little bit stronger than most and a little bit more general potential than most. What seems to be going on here is the most common problem in all of League build patterns. The more offensive you can build yourself, the more of a dramatic score you could have in the positive sense. The more offensive weaponry you have, the more that you could dramatically turn a game around last minute, and thus are a high impact player. Maybe I've never explained this, so I will do it now. We are almost racing all of the time. Everything is a competitive speed competition. This is the essence of what competitive play means. Every time you use an all-out aggressive item, you're using nitrous gas or nitro in your race car. And everything speeds up. That means you can catch up to others, everything becomes more dynamic, and you look way cooler in the moment. But every time you use nitrous gas and speed up, that also means you can crash into something, as you're cutting corners and whatnot. Every time you use an item, it's very difficult to find one because nobody uses anything other than nitro. But every time you use such an item, it's almost impossible to find any on here because nobody uses them. But an item that is defensive, you slow everything down. If you would take a person with almost no skill at all, and you would give him a full kit of Heartsteel-like items, he could still perfectly well do fine on a character like Tom or a character like Mundo. Because what it does is it slows everything down, like crystal meth. Weapons are like cocaine, and health items are like crystal meth. Crystal meth slows everything down. Cocaine speeds everything up. Every time you buy a weapon, you accelerate everything that is about to happen. Every action you take is going to become more and more erratic and more dramatic. Every time you buy a health item, you're going to give yourself a larger and larger reaction time. This is a person who knows almost nothing about the game, an Italian woman probably here because of her horrible looks. What a healthy impulse, you're an Italian middle-aged woman and the first thing you go with is fiddlesticks. That is definitely a hot babe with a lot of social media influence in her real life and a lot of friends' parties to go to. That is definitely a hot and successful woman. Okay, you showed up here because you have nowhere else to go. Maybe start with adding a massive crystal meth buffer to yourself, so you can actually slow everything down and have time to effing think. No, you're going to use a faker item. The most iconic faker item there is. There is no more pro play item than this. This is the #1 pro play item in the video game. This will make you go 100 miles an hour all of the time, 100 kilometers an hour all of the time. That's what you're gonna do? You have no idea what you're doing, but this is what you're going to go with? Moving on.
Until minions spawn. Minions have spawned.
Try to keep up.
First blood.
Have you seen my bear Tivers?
Oh.
Are we there yet? Try to keep up.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Don't be a scaredy cat. Come out wherever you are. Let's go again! Hop, skip, jump. Close jump! This way. Have you seen my bear Tivers? Are we there yet? I never play with matches. Don't be a scaredy cat.
Slain an enemy.
Come out, wherever.
An enemy has been slain.
Okay, good shit.
You have slain an enemy.
This way.
has destroyed a turret. Killing spree.
This way.
Cheers.
Don't be a scaredy cat. See ya. Try to keep up. Are we there yet?
Unstoppable. Rampage. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Play with matches.
Unstoppable. Executed.
Come out wherever you are.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Come out, wherever you are.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Double kill. Enemy rampage. Enemy double kill.
Make me hurt you. Try to keep up. Hop, skip, jump.
Has been destroyed.
There ya.
An ally has been slain. You can An enemy has been slain. Shut down.
I couldn't.
Have you seen my bed shivers?
Has been slain. The enemy's inhibitor has respawned.
Come out, wherever you are.
Enemy killing spree. Shut down. Double kill.
Och geweldig. Man, godverdomme. Duitse communistische manhoes. Stuk vuiligheid in.
Unstoppable.
Try to keep up.
fuck is this thing attacking me? What the fuck is this thing attacking me?
Have you seen my Vertivers? Come out, wherever you are. Don't be a scaredy cat! Hop, skip, jump!
Your turret has been destroyed.
Try to keep up. This way. Are we there yet?
Down.
I never play with matches.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Don't be a scaredy cat!
An enemy has been slain.
This way. Hop, skip, jump.
The enemy's inhibitor is respawning soon. The enemy's inhibitor has respawned.
Are we there yet?
Killing spree. Shut down. Shut down. An enemy has been slain.
Timbers. Don't be a scaredy
Your team
cat.
has destroyed an inhibitor.